Hello, everybody, all over the world. Hello. Wait. Hello, I am GPS, and with me is this fine gentleman over here. That is Sigafoo. How are you doing, man?
I'm doing great. How you doing?
Oh, I am doing great, too. Thank you very much. So, it's been a while since I did a podcast, and I thought, man, I do not want to watch faces, so let's watch our in-game characters. Boom. That was the punchline.
But my face is beautiful.
Yeah,
my engineer
you don't
face
have a hat. That takes respect.
Yeah, yeah. I don't need hats to be pretty.
So, in case we have some people from the underground that likes to live under rocks, who might you be, Sigafoo, for people?
Well, yeah, so I'm a platinum engineer in North America. I just finished this year in 3rd place, and yeah, I don't know. I've been playing for about 3-4 years now in competitive. Have been platinum for about the past 4 or 5 seasons. So I stream, do all that fun stuff.
So if you want to be a good engineer, look at this guy. Right, he knows what's up. So it's been almost a year since I did a podcast. Last time I was talking with Pledge, who sadly is no longer in the Team Fortress 2 scene. But the reason I wanted to do a podcast is because I do balance stuff, and I overheard you talking about some balance stuff. And we also talked about balance stuff off casts of the few casts we've done together. So
yeah,
go ahead.
I have a big opinion on it. I don't know. I have a lot of opinions on the balancing stuff, but I don't talk about it too much. So this will be a good avenue to do so.
Yeah. Usually people get tired of us bitching about stuff constantly.
Yeah.
Especially me. Like, my recent video, I finally am not going to bitch about the crouch jump jitter anymore because I have basically provided all the effort needed to fix it, if it's ever going to be a fix, if it can be fixed. But yeah, that's not what we're going to talk about today. We're going to talk about what kind of bothers you, and that's kind of the whole idea with the podcast here, is to give other views than just my own, because you can get a bit one-sided if you listen to me. And you might murder people with the Razorback on sight. In person, mind you.
In person.
In person, yeah. So, what do you want to talk about today? I'm also looking at the list.
Yeah, actually here. Right here. Yeah, so basically, I kind of have 4 things that I don't really care for in TF2 when it comes to balancing of weapons. And they kind of break down into, so I said 4 different kind of categories. So it's when they have weapons that change the counters that are inherent in the game. So for instance, like a spy counters a sniper inherently in the game, so you shouldn't be able to change that. Benefits for being better, I don't like that. So like being able to get health off of doing more damage, so the better you are, the more, like, it just creates a better advantage for you, which I don't like as well. I know I'm like saying all these things I don't like. I think kind of unfun weapons that just like are unfun to play against and just don't really have a downside to them. And then to a lesser extent, this isn't as big of a deal, but weapons that are just like weapons that nobody uses, because like default weapons that no one even considers, because they're just straight upgrades to them in the game. TF2 is not really a pay-to-win game, because it's so cheap and easy to get weapons. But I think Valve could have done a better job with some of that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of straight upgrades that you mentioned. I'm looking at a list here, like the bone saw and the shovel for the soldier. When do you ever go as a medic and be like, man, I should use the bone saw now, or else my team will fucking lose? Have you ever heard a medic say that?
Well, if a medic ever talked about their melee as the reason they lost, I might be like, you probably shouldn't be my medic. No, but it's true. Like, who ever wants to go the bone saw medic? Like, you never see it. Like, there's so many better weapons as a melee. And I think there's it's usually the melee stuff, but I mean, they do, fortunately, the one thing Valve I will give to their credit when it comes to the stock weapons is that almost all of the stock main weapons are almost always the best. So like the sticky launcher, the rocket launcher for the most part, but there's situations where that's not maybe the best, but yeah, I don't know. I think they've done a good, the stock sniper rifle for the most part, Yeah. They've done at least a good job on that.
Well, the whole idea with the side grades is that, this weapon should be used for this purpose or this kind of thing. So if this kind of thing happens, you kind of switch after a life, because it can be a couple of things that's pretty hard to deal with. On a side note, let's see if you have this on the list here. We can just go back and forth here for the engineer. Yes, the short circuit. Okay, we can talk about, well, there's three things here. Since you're an engineer, we can talk about engineer first, since that's probably the most relevant for you. That's what you have the most expertise in. So you wrote here Wrangler, Rescue Ranger, and Short Circuit. So, yeah. It's kind of a stupid question, but for some of the viewers who might not know, what is the deal with the Wrangler? What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that thing?
Well, in my opinion, I wouldn't say as much. The community hates it. And I think it kind of comes back to like weapons that are unfun to play against is something you have to look into. Like, why are they unfun, and kind of assess that. I really don't think that the Wrangler is inherently as overpowered as much as the community thinks, but I do think that it could use some balancing. Yeah. Just because, again, I when I was writing this list, I kind of said like, well, why don't I like some weapons? Well, they're just like the Babyface Blaster. They're unfun to play against. I think they're overpowered to some degree. Why is that? Like the unfun kind of hints at the overpowered nature of it, which then hints at like why don't I want to play against it? And I think the Wrangler is one of those where I definitely think that it's not as bad as people think, because I think it's easy to overtake, but you can't fight it the same way. So for instance, like a Wrangler, you don't shoot at the gun when it's wrangled. You shoot at the engineer when he's wrangling it. It's like stuff like that, but it's counterintuitive to some degree.
Yeah, but what if the engineer's behind the sentry and there's no way you can shoot the engineer because he's like in a corner?
Well, then you attack the team because the sentry's not doing damage output. Because if the sentry can't, if he's wrangling behind a corner, then he can't shoot at you, which then there's no damage output, which then means you focus the team. But again, it's not perfect, right? Like, I'm not saying, like, I'm not arguing that's correct. I'm just like... Yeah.
No, basically, I agree with you on the Wrangler. I think, like, I have a community balance thread, and in that thread, when I did go over a lot of the weapons, I think you should add a repair penalty to the wrangled sentry guns so that the damage reduction is the same as the repair rate, so you can't bullet sponge. Like, basically, when it's wrangled, yeah, you just shoot at the gun until it goes down. But it will take longer, and he won't shoot back, but it will just, take more time to get it down. But it will go down eventually, instead of never going down, because some engineers, I'm not sure if you've seen Musa, stacked engineer.
Yeah.
If he gets a level 3 sentry on the third point on Badwater in the window, and a dispenser in the stairs, that thing never goes down, like, ever. Like, there's no way you can kill it.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's pretty powerful like that. Well, that's what I mean, is like, I think that well, and I was thinking about this actually just as I was writing this, because I think the Rescue Ranger also could use some balancing in terms of that. Like, the combo is so powerful, and how could you balance it? I think actually I kind of like your idea. One idea I'd also like to toss out to Valve, who's not listening, is that what if they made it so that if you had the Wrangler out or the Rescue Ranger out, that you take a damage penalty, kind of similar to the Equalizer to some degree. Maybe not mini crits, I think that'd be too strong, but maybe you take like a plus 10% or plus 15% damage and explosive damage hit. So then it's like so if you use these weapons that keep your sentry gun alive, then you're less likely to keep you're harder to stay alive when you're using them.
Yeah.
I think that's interesting.
Yeah,
like, this doesn't necessarily counter the idea of what you're saying, which is if the engineer's hiding, but if the engineer does get hit by something, it's going to be much, much harder. I think the third point of Badwater is just broken to the current meta.
Absolutely. It needs another pathway. There's like no way you can, like, if the defending team gets in a proper position and the blue team doesn't have momentum and they're playing on equal skill, and let's say they're like the best teams in the world, it's going to be a stalemate. There's like, or the red team is going to win. There's no way they can push that, because they need the spy to get in where he can't be seen, and there's nowhere he can do that.
Right. Like, you need to catch a break, and that's kind of hoping for a miracle is not a way that you should strategize for TF2. Like, there's no real good way you can attack it. Yeah.
Yep. So that's like the Wrangler. He needs like a fix. So I think like just adding the repair penalty, I think, is a good start. And if that's not enough, you can always add like more penalties in other ways, because it's a sentry enhancing gun, and it should not enhance the NG. So that's a place to start. And then the next one is the Rescue Ranger. Now, I up until this point, I thought the Rescue Ranger was fine, but then you, engineers, say it's not fine, and now I also don't think it's fine, but I'm not sure why.
I love that. I mean, I don't want to talk... I mean, I do think it is... I don't think it's bad the way it is. I mean, I think the damage of... You can't... I'm no longer a viable class to do damage output outside my sentry, I think is a big downside to it. So that's why I think inherently, and then you also have the penalty of, like, if I'm moving my gun, I have a mini crit that gets put on me, I think that's also like very bad. But you know, if you're a competent engineer, you know what you're doing, kind of like Musa, you know, you kind of mentioned, if you're in the right spots, you can kind of play around that where you're just healing your gun and you can do some really creative things with it, which I think is good. I really like the Rescue Ranger because it adds a lot of creativity to how you play engineer. It's not so much like, all right, well, let's just hope I don't die during this Uber push, but if I repair my gun, I'm going to die because I'm going to get hit by spam. You know, like, it kind of removes that element, which makes engineer more interesting to play.
Yeah.
But also, again, it makes it very difficult to take down the sentry. And so, again, I was kind of thinking before this, like, what I do, and I think a damage penalty, when you have it out, I think would be inherent, like, would not be a bad idea. Maybe you do just have mini crits when you have it out, and just make it so that the engineer's healing the gun. Well, now he's easier to kill, you know?
Yeah, well, what I think is, like, the problem is, like, let's say you go the unorthodox combination, which is Rescue Ranger, pistol, wrench. Like,
yeah.
Then probably the Rescue Ranger is fine, but I think when the Rescue Ranger is paired with the Wrangler, it becomes like an insane bullet sponge.
Yep.
Because usually what happens before, it wasn't a big a problem because, you know, the engineer would take splash damage from the gun and eventually die, and then the gun would die. But now the engineer is far away and repairs from a distance. I think, like, the reason we got the Rescue Ranger was because remember the repair node that they made a blog post about ages ago?
Yeah, they're trying to add.
Yeah, I think it's like that. It's basically that, because that wasn't fun to play with, like an auto repair, so they made it ranged repair weapon instead. I do like the way that if you carry the gun, you take mini crits. I think that's fine. So maybe it's
it's fine.
It's just it's Wrangler related. It's kind of like if you eat an orange and have just brushed your teeth, the orange tastes terrible.
Basically. The mini crits, man.
So,
I've died. Those are the worst to die too.
Yeah, so here's a weapon I think is fine, and that is the short circuit.
Yeah. Oh, are you talking about its current form?
Yeah, in its current form.
Oh my gosh, you're insane. You're an insane man. Oh, I think the short circuit is so incredibly broken right now. It's like not even close to being like a weapon that should like. I think it's probably one of the most broken weapons in the game right now, if not the most, in my opinion.
Yeah, well, it might be a bit too easy to use.
That's the problem. You know, I think that if you see, I think for like, okay, let me give you this ask you this question: if Pyro had his air blast turned down to 10 ammo, and then he could air blast as fast as he could click the button, do you think air blast would be fair?
For who?
I'm asking, do you think the air blast would be a balanced mechanic in TF2?
Well, it would kind of make the Pyro the same way a Pyro is to a Spy, you know. Basically, Pyro would be a counterclass to Demo Man and Soldiers. Not like a soft counter, but a total hard counter. Because like, yeah, if a Pyro is there, there's like no way I can get past there. But because of the way Compression Blast works now, I mean, if a Pyro is around a corner and has a dispenser, there's no way you can pass that without being blasted back. There's like, he can just stay there and blast you forever. And that's kind of like how it works. And if it was even stronger than that, it would be even more impossible. And already, I think, like, right now, the air blast is fine because it's really hard to use. Well, at least for me. And it rewards the play because you get mini crits, you do more damage, and you can push and all that stuff. And I used to think the short circuit was fine before, when it was bad, but now it's better. But I don't think it's not like super imba broken. But in Highlander, it is.
I guess to me, it's broken kind of no matter the format. And I guess when I say the Pyro is like, I think the Pyro is a really good analogy for what the short circuit should be if it is going to be a weapon in the game, which I don't even agree with the premise of the weapon being in the game in the first place. But for what it is, it takes no skill. I can hold down mouse 1 and I destroy any projectiles coming at me. Yeah. And if I'm anywhere competent with metal management, which any engineer should be, you should be able to do this. I can shut down anything coming at me, and I think that's completely broken. Now, if they had it the way that the original one was, which I tried to use, and it took skill, because if you were going against a soldier, it's the same kind of meta with air blast, where I have to right click at the right time, and if I go too soon, I can't recover from it, right?
Yeah.
If I, you know, so make the short circuit, if you're going to have it in the game, at least make it take skill, and that's where my down. I thought the short circuit, all they needed to do was fix it with the original thing. I think it was like 30 metal or something like ridiculously high.
Yeah.
Make it 20, 15, somewhere around there, and then boom, that's it.
They could make it 5 metal per projectile. plus 5 metal usage. So if you just use it and you miss, it's 5 metal, and if you use it and you remove 1 projectile, it's 10 metal. And I think that
5 extra, or
yeah, it's like the base is 5 and then 5 per projectile. So that means if you're gonna remove a sticky trap, that's 8. That's like 5 times 8, which is like 40 metal or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
Or maybe 10. It depends. Like that requires balancing. But I think like having it like this impossible stream. I mean, they did fix it when they did the made it like similar to the beggar's bazooka thing, where you don't get the metal from dispensers when it's equipped. But right now it's just, let's say you play 6s, right? No, not 6s, Highlander. 6s. Who plays 6s? Jeez. And you play Highlander, and you go engineer, and all you do is hang around the medic with the short circuit, and you do nothing but deny soldiers from jumping you. What's the soldiers gonna do? Oh, you can go bother the sniper, and then what? He can't do his job. You took his job.
Well, I think the better example of how the short circuit would be used, and I'm kind of sad it got banned before I actually tried to do this in a game, but you put down a mini sentry, and then I stop you from destroying it. Like a scout can't, the whole, like, you need explosive damage to destroy those. I take that away. Now it's basically spies and snipers, and spies can focus them, but they're not going to. I mean, they generally don't because they have other more important things to do, and snipers can, but they don't often. And so, like, taking away 2 of the main classes to destroy minis is kind of a big deal. And again, I think that the counters to engineer are like soldier, or specifically demo, soldier to a lesser degree, but taking away the demo man is taking away a counter to what an engineer should inherently have, and I disagree with that.
Well, that's where I disagree with you, because engineer has no oh shit factor outside of his gun. You never meet an engineer and you go, oh shit, like never.
Well, you never played against me.
Well, we're seeing engineers play a lot better, but there's like you go, oh shit, sticky trap, oh shit, bombing soldier. So basically, like, if you go mini sentry and short circuit, you're just gonna be like, yeah, I'm gonna be an inconvenience where I'm at right now, and it's gonna be an area control because you can't wrangle it and it has a range, and it will eventually go down. But it's like, this is my space now, and it does what engineer does too, but to a lesser extent. Like, it's not as lethal. I mean, if you were to do the same thing with a level 3 sentry, people would be like, well, it's a level 3 sentry. I mean, a mini sentry is still a sentry. And a sentry is good against scouts regardless if it's a mini sentry or a level 3, because that's the whole like balance of speed of power, like more speed, less power, less speed, more power, and the gun is stationary. That's like the argument. Like, here's like one of my arguments for why like the short circuit should be in the game, and that is, let's say this is not related to Highlander, this is related to pubs, because pubs is the majority of what people play. If the enemy team, we play 12-12, and the enemy team goes 12 scouts, you build 4 sentries and they can't do shit. They have to switch, right? And all this kind of balance stuff works for every single class except the demo man. If they go 12 demo man, you fucking lose. There's like no way. But with the short circuit, you can actually stop that. But then it's like, the new meta is like, well, 12 gunslinger engineers, some with Wrangler, some with short circuit, is now like the new unstoppable force, kind of. But then again, it's really weak with spies. So I know this is kind of extreme, but this is like the way I saw it when the thing was, because before the team on pubs was just like, oh, whoever has the most demo men win. It's like because they just do the spam damage, because demo men are just so good with the sticky launcher.
Yeah, I mean, I think that Pyro's counter, I mean, just to say, it's like, I think we should probably switch. You can get one last word in after me, I guess. Yeah, I don't want to try to say this and then say one last thing. But yeah, I mean, I think that, scouts kind of inherent. I mean, like, scouts, I don't know. I don't think it's inherently just that, like, a short circuit, because I think Pyro's could. If you have Pyro scouts, sniper spies, like, I think could potentially counter that team. I mean, it just depends on what map it is and all that stuff. But I get the point you're trying to say. Again, I think it comes down just to like differing philosophies of us, which is, I think that,
But the thing is, it should be like this, like, a pyro without a dispenser can't air blast forever. And you with an engineer, you can't short circuit forever. You can be like, you can waste the guy's one clip, and then you're fucked. You basically buy yourself time is what you're doing, which I think is fine. But we have more stuff to talk about. Mainly one thing I really like, or not like, rather, it's the one word that you're not allowed to say in my stream, and that is the Razorback. So,
yeah, I guess. Yeah, go ahead. Sorry.
Now I was just going to ask you, what is your deal with the Razorback? Because I know you're not a fan of it, but you're not a fan of it for different reasons than I am.
Yeah. So the reason I you know, I've never really had too much of an opinion on the Razorback until this last season. And I really started to think about the way that Highlanders kind of form in North America. I don't know if it's as much as in the EU. I've only cast, you know, a handful of games over, so I can't say about the metas. But in Highlander in North America, it's all about the sniper. You play around your sniper a lot. You know, Gentleman's Club is a team that if they didn't have Max, they would be a completely different team. They can play completely around him because they pocket him to give him heals, protect him, let him do his thing. Because the only thing that can counter a buffed sniper is another buffed sniper, basically. Because you need to be able to charge a headshot long enough to be able to do more than 185 damage. Which means that if you're not wearing a Razorback and you're not being, you know, like you have to be able to last in that sniper duel. And I think that the Razorback, again, it's about taking a counter away from what it was inherently built into the game, which is that snipers should be countered by spies. And a buff sniper with a Razorback cannot be countered by anything except a team, a bombing soldier maybe, but it's really difficult, you know? And I think that a spy should be able to get that instant pick on a sniper. If a sniper wants to charge up a shot, well, the inherent counter to that is a spy comes up and stabs him, you know? But now you've taken that out of the game, and I don't agree with that.
Yeah, well, also the sniper mechanic is kind of broken in the same way. I think, like, sniper needs a nerf, because if you never miss, it's by far one of the strongest classes in the game. In my opinion, like, the two strongest classes is 1, Demo Man, and 2, Sniper, because you can do instantly damage from any range. You just need to click their heads and hope that the hit registration is on your goddamn side, because I don't know how many times I've shot people in the face, and then they have blood all over their face, but there's, like, no damage, and you shoot like you did in your video, you shoot, and then, like, 4 seconds later, he dies. It's like
yeah, my 900 ping video.
Yeah, it's like the what is it called? The guy goes and then he's like €1,000 pain or whatever, and then the guy just explodes a few seconds later. It's kind of like that. But yeah. So yeah, the Razorback is, well, my take on the Razorback is that if you wear the Razorback, someone else on your team is going to get stabbed. And I've actually sent my minions, my viewers, out on a quest to actually... We're going to have an episode dedicated to just killing Razorback snipers on pubs in general, to just see if, like, did the Razorback save them, or would any other unlock have saved them? To see, because it's kind of like the no-brainer. It's like, oh yeah, Razorback, never check my back ever, and
right.
It kind of lowers their game sense in a way, but it's kind of like what everybody uses. And the thing is, if you always use the Razorback, you will never know how little you get stabbed unless you don't use it. Like me, like, I don't consider myself getting stabbed a lot, and if you get stabbed 1,000 times, you start to see certain patterns in the spy's things, because you get to know the spy's timing, and you know that, well, he did this, so he can't stab me for a good 30 seconds, so I don't have to check my back until 30 seconds. And besides, if you're being pocketed by your team, they will see the spy coming anyway. And if they don't, well, then he will just stab someone else, maybe the medic.
Well, but I mean, that's not a fair statement, because, like, if you'd say that, like, then the medic would never get stabbed, because the spy, you know, the team would always see it coming. Like, that's not true. Well, like,
I mean, you should feel ashamed if you get stabbed as a medic. I mean, as a medic,
well, yeah, but I mean, like, it happens, right? Like, that's the inherent, because if the medic had a Razorback, right, the medic would, like, you know, that'd be so incredibly hard to kill the medic, because, like, that you know, that's what I'm saying is, like, I think that almost every class has, like, 2 counters to it, I believe, is, like, kind of the way that it generally works, and so you're taking away one of the major counters, which is, I guess, that's where I disagree with. I mean, I don't mean, I'm just, like, repeating myself here. I get what you're saying, but I don't think that, if you look at the way that it works out, I really don't think that, I mean, yeah, you get kills on other people, but that doesn't really matter, you know, in the game. If I get a stab on a soldier on the flank, well, that doesn't mean as much as potentially getting a sniper who's watching a sight lane, which is not allowing us to push, you know?
Yeah, well, basically what it boils down to is that the spy is... I think Stabby said this, that, like, if it was an 8v8, the first class to go would be the spy. Like, he's so unreliable, because he relies on... Well, basically, like, the spy relies on a distraction, and distractions always happens when people are comfortable being in the sightlines, and they're not, because the sniper is there. So, because the sniper is watching, there's no distraction. Because there's no distraction, the spy can't do as much as he wants to. So I think, like, a good nerf to the Razorback would be to not have the spy be stunned. It's basically like it takes you 2 stabs to get killed. So the spy could stab you and then cloak instantly, like he would stab any other person. I think that would solve the problem, because then it's like just a timing. It's like, yeah, 1 stab, and next stab you're gonna die. I think is I think that would actually be very viable, actually.
I just take it out of the game.
Oh, take it out again. Well, it's been in the game for so long that you can't really.
Yeah, no, they don't remove weapons. So what I mean, I don't know. I don't think there's anything. I don't think besides like again like taking out the mechanic completely, which they're not going to do. So this is why this is hypothetical talk, because Sigafoo comes with crazy ideas that Valve will never do.
But one thing I wanted to say that I'm going to talk about in my next what is it called? Community Balance Advisor video is actually the sniper mechanic, because if the sniper can't jump while he's in scope, suddenly counter-sniping becomes a lot easier because you don't have the crouch jump jittering snipers that are hard to hit. So that means if there's 2 buffed sniper, and the sniper who shoots first will be a sitting duck for a short amount of time, and then you can counter him reliably because he's either standing or crouching or in between the two. Instead of jumping in, if you shoot him, he just goes flying away and takes reduced damage and all that crap. But yeah, I definitely agree with Razorback needing some kind of change. And
oh, that's the other thing. I remember how I was like, if we didn't take out the game, is my suggestion to change it if you want to keep in the game was that snipers could not be overhealed and take like extra explosive damage with it, like maybe like 10% more.
Well, you can just make them not take any overheal.
Well, that's what I mean. It's like, yeah, it's like if you wear the Razorback, then you can never be overhealed. So it's like, then a sniper who's not wearing the Razorback hard counters you to some degree because they can quick scope you, but you can't quick scope them necessarily if they can get overhealed. Yeah, I think that would be an interesting dynamic. It's like, all right, well, if you want to give up Spy being able to stab you, then you have to let the counter to you, like you have to give them a counter then. Like the sniper is even a harder counter than them rather than just an even one.
Yeah. I also want the bullet for the sniper to not be instant. I want it to have some kind of trajectory, so there's some kind of prediction going in. Because if you're, I think it's just too good compared to the other classes. Because, like, oh yeah, he saw me and I died. So, that's just my opinion on it. So next one is the item that was the reason I wanted you to ask you to come to do this, and that is the Spy-cicle.
Yeah. So I mean, Spy-cicle. Again, I mean, this is just like, I repeat myself over and over again, and just like, I don't agree with this game design, which is that the Spy-cicle, I understand the downside of it, and I think that it kind of makes sense, but ultimately, again, you're taking, like, there is literally, if you have a Dead Ringer Spy-cicle, there is nothing to kill that, there's no counter to that Spy, because any damage he takes, he can Dead Ring, and any pyro that catches him, he can Spy-cicle. So there is literally no counter to that, you know? Besides, like, okay, the Spy just runs away, waits 10 seconds. Like, the only counter, I guess, is time, that the Spy can't get a stab for 14 seconds. But that's not necessarily a bad thing if that Spy can stay behind enemy lines and then use his Ambassador to annoy you and distract. You know, like, I just don't... I don't like that mechanic in the game. I really just strongly disagree with the way that they did that. Yeah. And then the fact that it also has silent kills, make it louder kills. Are you kidding me? Something like you make it now that it's better than the knife in that way as well. That it also is quiet and doesn't go into the kill feed. I think that's wrong as well. Well,
unless you're like high tier player, like me. If you're a high tier player and you played sniper as much as I have, you can actually hear. Just as clearly when people are being stabbed normally because they scream really loud, and when they are being stabbed with the eternal reward because it's like this little sound.
Yep.
And then the Spy-cicle, which is basically like whatever. But yeah, I agree. The Spy-cicle makes it so easy to escape, and basically, if a Spy runs into a pyro, he should die if he's on fire, basically. So yeah, I think like it should melt regardless if he's holding it or not. And, yeah, the Dead Ringer shouldn't be as good as it is.
Yeah, I'd also take down I'd nerf the Dead Ringer just slightly. I think they did a good job, of, like, nerfing it, but I think they just
the one thing you can argue, though,
further.
The one thing you can argue, though, is it is possible to kill a Spy-cicle Dead Ringing Scout if the pyro is really good with sound. Because basically, you can hear the Spy burning, but you can't see him. So you have to burn him and hear him being burned and have such good prediction that you will know where he will run, so you can just keep burning him until he catches fire again, and then he's dead. So it's kind of like easy to get out of and extremely hard to punish. Like, it takes way more skill to punish a Spy using this and kill him than it is for the Spy to get away, just because he's using that item.
Yeah, and I think this kind of comes back to, like, earlier in the you know, when we're talking about it. It's like, I think that generally speaking, if you ever come across a thing where you're like, this is unfun to play against, there's probably some balancing that can be done. You know, it's not just about skill level. It's like, I think that's actually a good way of putting it that you kind of said, is that it's harder to try to take it out than it is to use it. And I think that's where the unfun nature is brought into it, is that you can stop it. You can stop a dead ring. Obviously, they're not, you know, every spy would be running this if it was a perfect solution. But the point is that it's harder to punish the person for doing it than it is for that person to actively use it in a successful way. And I think that's where the unfun nature kind of comes out of it, which then means it's probably a little bit OP.
And we've seen a couple of changes here, at least in Europe, that the scout is more like, in Highlander, is more like the spy killing guy, because some of the scouts, they have developed really good timing. So it's like, oh well, if he dead ringers, he's either gonna go to this spot or this spot or this spot, and then he just runs around and then he hears him and he just kills him. So like the job of the pyro is kind of being passed on to the scout. So if a scout's chasing you down, and it's a competent scout that will chase you down, like I guess Lazy Bear and Sorex, they're the kind of guys that will do this. It doesn't matter what kind of knife you use, you still die. So but that's kind of weird, because pyro is like supposed to be good against scouts, so it's kind of like, weird design.
Random tangent on Spy. If I could, I'd remove the Dead Ringer from the game and just make it so you only have watches, and then I'd also remove Girardi from being able to hit Cloak Spies and Milk from hitting Cloak Spies. Because I think I'm fine with Girardi and Milk when it's up against a Dead Ringer, but I think against Inviswatch it kind of ruins. You know, like you shouldn't be able to. Spy takes skill then when you're using Inviswatch, because you have to dodge and there's a lot of stuff. And then being able to freely see it, I think is kind of wrong. But with the Dead Ringer, I'm kind of okay. I'm okay with it, because like, you can't just shoot it. You know, you can't just kill. If you catch a spy, you can't just shoot it and know that you killed it. You know. Anyways, random side tangent.
I don't agree with that. I love Girardi. I think Girardi is like one of the more okay items. Because the hit detection on that thing is fucking terrible. Anyway, moving on the list here. So we covered the Razorback, and now it's a Blackbox. Now that's surprising to me, because I think that thing is fine, but you can go ahead and give your thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it kind of, there's some weapons I can actually, there's one I missed for the heavy, like the Fist of Steel or something like that, where it's just like, I don't hate the weapon. I don't think it should be removed from the game. You know, I'm not like crying about it, but it's more just like, I don't agree with the game mechanic that you, especially in TF2, where you reward players for being better. So if I'm shooting you, if I'm successfully shooting you, if I'm successfully putting out damage, that I get rewarded for that, right? It's kind of, I don't like that game mechanic. Like, I think it should stay even. So maybe the black box does, like the conch, I think is a good example of like, where it just steadily gives you a buff. If you do more damage, you're like working up to something that you potentially can use, but like, I don't know. There's some like mechanic about the black box. I just don't like the fact that it's like you do damage and inherently you get rewarded for doing damage. There's something about that mechanic I don't love. Then again, I'm saying like the conch, and I'm like, I don't really hate that as much, but I think that's just because it's a little bit more of an active use, whereas the healing is like a passive thing that you get, you know? Like a conch, you get a conch, but you still have to use it in the time, you know, like there's a lot of variables that go on with that. That's not just like such a straight positive thing, you know? Going up against a soldier who has black box, you know, it's so difficult to deal with for a lot of classes, because like they just heal themselves. They can spam rockets from afar and just heal themselves, you know?
Yeah, but it also makes the soldier
I don't like that.
Less threatening. It's more of annoying. So it's like he doesn't kill you, but it doesn't go away either. He's just being annoying. And I think if the game allows it to be annoying, because that's a part of game design, is to make stuff an inconvenience to you. And I think like a black box soldier is a pretty good example of that, of just being an inconvenience. Like, he's not as lethal because he lacks a rocket, but he will just stay there for a good while. And it's not that much health either. I mean, if you shoot 3 rockets, that's like 45 health.
Yeah, well, but I mean that's enough to make a difference in almost every 1v1 fight. Like if you come in, like, because almost any class that's going to attack you that besides a soldier is going to be already at a disadvantage. Engineer, scout, I mean, like, those are the 2 ones you're going to usually meet on the flank. Spy, you know, where it's like you run into a soldier, you're already at a disadvantage, and then you add the disadvantage that if I even have a chance at you, you're going to, that 45 damage will, there's no way. If I come across a soldier with a black box who's at full health, there is no way I'm going to kill him as an engineer unless he really misplays or he really misses his rockets.
Well, you need your sentry for that.
Well, yeah, but I mean, the point is that I come across a soldier with a rocket launcher at full health, like that 45 health, like I can kill him in 3 shots. Whereas with the black box, I would have to kill him with 3 very perfect shots, or like 4 shots, which is far too long against his 3 rockets. You know, I don't know. I don't. Again, it kind of comes back to like it's just unfun. And then why is it unfun? Because it's easier. It gives more benefits to you. Obviously, there's downsides to it. I just think that I don't think it's overpowered. I just think that it could use a tweak to just make it a little bit less beneficial, or some way of fixing it.
How about making it so that if you right-click, he pulls out a health pack and heals himself of the amount of heal that he has built up, or something like that? Like,
I don't know. Like,
I'm just throwing this out here. I haven't really thought about it.
Yeah, I'd probably say that I would go with 4 rockets, but you just do like 20%, like make it like a Liberty launcher, kind of an idea.
Dude,
of
that
like,
thing is awful these days. There's like no reason to go Liberty launcher at all.
But like that's it. You do less damage output, but you get instant heals off of it. Yeah. Balanced. Like get 4 rockets. I don't know. That seems like a better fix to me.
Blackbox is fine as it is. There's not a lot of people who think it's OP, because usually if you're in a soldier duel, you usually lose, and you don't kill as fast. You just stay in battle longer, which is another play style. I mean, Blackbox works great if you are going for a backpack play, because if you're not, let's say you're not getting heals from a medic, because there's not always medics around, then you kind of need something to help you heal, and you give away 1 rocket, and you can kind of like, because the Blackbox works really well with other backpacks as opposed to the regular rocket launcher, because like, yeah, I can rocket jump so much, and now I can't. Now I'm really slow, and then you die.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can get why you're saying like at a higher level it can be like really, really important, or annoying rather. But then it's like the Babyfaces Blaster and the Pocket Boy pistol.
Yeah. Yeah, well, so kind of I think the Babyface Blaster is just like, again, it's an unfun weapon to play against. You're making the scout, who's already like the fastest class in the game by giving everything default, and I'm sure there's like whips and weird stuff that you can say that's not true, but for as it is, the scout basically is the fastest class. You're making them even faster, which is like very difficult to hit, and the scout's already hard to hit. And then you took away, like, they made it so that you can do a 1 jump. It's a 4 clip, which basically is all you need is 4 shots for every class besides a heavy. And then you go faster, and then getting the boost is incredibly easy to do. Like, it's not hard to do the boost. And then doing a double jump only takes away 25% of it. And it just, their buff to it was just, it's too damn high. It's too damn far. They went too far with it, and Again, I think it just comes down to, is it fun to play against? No. Well, why is that? Well, because it's easier to use than it is to counter, Yeah.
I can't actually find it right now, but I remember one of my viewers, they, for the Soda Popper episode, they did some maths of all the DPS of all the scatterguns in the game. And Babyface's Blaster is higher than the scattergun. The scattergun is actually the lowest DPS scattergun in the game for the scout. Like, the best one is the Soda Popper. And yeah, it's kind of weird. I think like it goes back to the balance of speed for power, because more speed means less power. Then why is Scout getting a gun that makes him faster and more powerful, like DPS wise? It doesn't make any sense. But I guess Valve is just trying to see what it takes to make people use it, because they can see the stat of what gets equipped, and I think Babyface's Blaster was one of those. What about the Pocket Boy pistol? No fall damage and extra health and slower fire rate.
Yeah, I mean, I think
that sounds like stats that should go in a pair of shoes, if you ask me.
Yeah, the Pocket Boy pistol is just, it seems like, because that's plus 15 HP on a scout, which is like absolutely huge when it comes to that overbuff. Then 15 HP by itself isn't that bad, but when you get a scout who's 210 HP, that's freaking scary. And then like Pocket Boy pistol, it's a 210 HP scout going 50 miles per hour because he's got the Babyface Blaster, and like, God, that's just terrifying, especially given in the hands of a competent scout.
Imagine if he was also buffed by the Conjurer buff, so he's also healing while he was running around.
Oh, you could, technically speak, yeah. So it's like, yeah, it kind of comes down to just like, I think that it needs to have worse downsides that are more passive downsides, which are worse. Which is like, okay, you can take plus 15, but maybe you take more explosive damage, or something like that. Like the inherent nature of fire damage, I think is like, that does suck, but Pyro's already kind of a counter to Scout. Give it to something that's not, give it to something that shouldn't. So more bullet damage, more explosive damage. I think that's how you could balance it out.
Yeah,
so it's like, okay, well, you can use it, but
because with the Babyfaces Blaster, you have more speed, meaning you have more ability to dodge, so that'd be kind of natural to do that. So I think like Babyfaces Blaster and the, what is it, the Candy Cane would probably be a good combo, because you run really fast and you try to dodge the projectiles and you get health from the people you kill, and I think that's like good. So I think also the pocket pistol should also enhance that thing, because you also don't take fall damage, which means you're able to like fall, and like fall damage is like, I remember it's like 30 or 40 if you fall from like max height or something like that. So plus 15 health, and none of that is actually more, because the fall damage is pretty huge actually. Not a lot of people think about that. So I think also just removing the health bonus and just having no fall damage will be fine as well. But
yeah, I think that. Yeah, I haven't almost by itself would be.
I haven't looked into it too much, but that's like my thoughts right now. So yeah, also one thing we can just touch on really short is the Criticola. I mean, it was good before, and now it's even better. I mean, I don't understand.
Oh, well, the thing with the Criticola was like that they've changed it so, like, I think it's been like through at least 4 revisions, you know, like since it first came out. I think that when they gave it a speed boost is when they started going wrong with the.
Yeah, well, basically the iteration before this one was the one I liked the most, because it's basically everything faster. You run faster, you kill faster, you die faster, and it's just like everything Scout does, but faster. That was kind of like the old version, but here it's like run faster, kill faster, don't die as much. Don't die as fast. But yeah, I think like even just give mini crits, take mini crits, done. You don't need anything else.
Well, and that's, but the thing was is that I believe the last iteration, so now it's at 10% damage taken. It was at 25% damage taken, and before that it was mini crits. And I think on the mini crits, without this, I don't like the speed boost on it. I think just you do mini crits, you take mini crits, you know, that's as balanced as you can get. Like, you do more damage, you take more damage. It's going to be kind of a pick weapon. It's a side grade. You use it occasionally, you know. Then they would just kind of went crazy with it.
Also, moving on to Pyro, I actually did a lot of research on the reserve shooter, and my conclusion was that it's fine in its current state.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of pyros don't use it. I think that just their buffing of it. I think putting it to 4. I think when it was at 3, I think it was kind of fine then. Like, you know, you're not going to use it too much. I think at the clip of 4, it's extra, and then also the 5 seconds after airborne. Like, I think the reserve shooter is fine for soldiers. I don't like it for pyro. It's so like, it's kind of like, I find it like, why would you use it at 4 with a 4 clip over a shotgun? If I was a pyro using a shotgun, I feel like I would just use the reserve shooter. Like, I use the reserve shooter, I feel dirty. Like, I don't know, when I use a weapon and I feel bad for using it, it's usually a sign when I think a weapon's probably not balanced.
Well, yeah, I guess they could probably do some more tweaks to it. I think it was fine when it was 3, and then it's 4. It doesn't really matter too much, because most people die in 2 hits anyway. They could probably do something with it to fine-tune it, but as of its current state, it's not broken, and we see... I looked at the stats, and it's not actually... Like, pyros prefer the flare gun opposed to that, because they want to have that long-range thing, and the flare gun is pretty good as well.
Well, I think the shotgun's better. That's my opinion.
Well, you're a main engineer. Of course you will like the shotgun better. It's like your favorite weapon. And
there's
crazy.
The
removing of zappers is wrong.
Yes, that's terrible.
Right, let's hear that. I never heard that before.
Yeah. So okay. So let's see. Let's take the class that's a hard counter. So we got a spy. And how counters pyro. And let's just make it more powerful. Let's take the only thing that like you know, there's something like, you know, and this is particular to pubs, because you don't see this in competitive, because there's better melees than a Homewrecker. But in a pub, you know, if we're talking about purely pub setting, like, all you need is a pyro chilling with the engineers, and there's nothing you can do to counter that as a spy. Like, you cannot, because if you kill the engineer, sap the gun, you know, and another engineer could do that, you know, remove it, but again, that engineer is inherently a weak class, you know? Like, okay, but then to kill an engineer, like, sap the gun is the success, and then a pyro can go flame you, air blast you, till you're dead, and then one shot a sapper off. I think that's so wrong. Well, I think that removing sappers is so wrong.
That's why you use the dead ringer and the Spy-cicle to get away from that. It's kind of like the way I think at Nerf now, the comic, when he was still doing Team Fortress 2 stuff, said it pretty well. Valve likes to fight broken with broken. They can just give everybody a broken weapon. It's like, just use that. It's like the next transcendence of balance. But yeah, I get what you're saying, but Pyro has kind of always been the engineer's friend, and then it's like the engineer enhancing weapon, I guess, and it's good against buildings, so...
Yeah, it's too far. Like, I was strongly against it back when the Homewrecker came. I've been against this weapon for like what, 4 years now?
Yeah,
I still think it's incredibly broken. Well, not incredibly broken, but I think it's bad.
You just sounded like an engineer that don't want any help.
Well, I was a spy main originally,
oh,
so
right. Well, yeah.
that's where this comes from, because it was like because again, like I really like this idea now, which is like, if it's unfun, why is it unfun? Because it's easier, you know, like there's like, it's so easy to use. It's not even like a multi-hit or something like that, you know.
But
it's
also,
one hit.
Well, you also gotta. Well, I take a different approach. Is that like if the Pyro is that near the sentry, then there is not a Pyro somewhere else.
Right, but the sentries are really useful. I don't think that I don't like that logic, because it's like the whole point is you should be able to take down the gun. I should get the reward if I kill the engineer and sap the gun and there's no other engineers around. I should get the reward for taking.
Well, I mean, if you kill the gun, people just shoot the gun and it dies. Because.
But you can make that. I don't know.
Well,
like, I think that's gonna.
I'm not sure if you know like the attack defense ratio, how that works. But if one guy is defending a hill, you need at least 3 guys to be sure to kill that one guy that is defending the hill, because it's easier to defend than it is to attack. So if you're going to attack a sentry, you need, well, at least 3 people to guarantee that, because the engineer in the sentry.
Well, not in the original game of TF2.
Well, in the original game of TF2, sentries died they were like made of paper. They died to like nothing.
Right.
Like
well,
nothing. The Pyros didn't even have air blast. It was just like, damn, man, just shoot pipes. But yeah, it's like.
So then Wrangler's a good balanced weapon in the game, like, because it forces teams to have to work together. Like.
Yeah. What isn't that a bunch of bullshit? Teamwork. Oh, look at
that. I don't know. I don't know.
No, I think it's fine. Of course, we can disagree on that. I like that the Pyro's basically enhancing the sentry gun and not being able to do the extinguisher thing, which he likes to do. Which also brings me to why the fuck is fire axe the way it is right now. It's like, yeah, I'm gonna be a pyro. I'm gonna use the fire axe because
they needed like
can't make the argument.
I think it'd be interesting if they made what they need to do is make a pyro main weapon that is like a non-flamethrower, but it's kind of works like a flare. That it does bonus damage against people on fire, so then you would have like, you could do like a flare with it, and then you use your main weapon to do extra damage, or the fire axe, and then you finish them off with the main weapon. I think that'd
like
be
a grease
I don't know what
gun
it would
that
be,
shoots
but
grease, so when the grease hits the fire, it's just like
something like that. Yeah, maybe it's just.
I also thought about like reversed air blast, so you pull shit towards you instead of pushing them away. That's also interesting.
Yeah.
And that also works for projectiles. You eat the projectile, and it explodes inside your gun. And you take reduced damage. But yeah, that's for another topic. Yeah, demo, don't like the caber.
I don't like the caber. Just kind of comes down to, I don't think it's that bad, but it's mostly just kind of like, it seems kind of like a no downside weapon to me, in the sense for like 70% of the time, you know, like a good chunk of the time. It's just because, like, when does the demo man use his melee? Well, it's like in a last-ditch effort, you know, like in an emergency situation. Well, if I'm about to kill a demo man, I'm close to him, because to kill demo men, you usually need to be close to them, because that's where you have your advantage. And then he's just like, oh, I'm going to pull out my melee. One swing, you're dead. You know, like, it's like he's already, like, there's something about that I don't like. Imagine
if they made it so if you swing it, it hits you anyway. Because he's so drunk, he actually hits himself with it on the side. So
that'd be interesting if, like, yeah, if you miss your swing, then you inherently just exploded. I think that'd be an interesting balance to that weapon, and actually
they can like increase the damage it does to yourself. So if you swing it, you die, and it's like an instant kill or whatever. So
yeah,
but not increase the range. So you can be like, oh, caber, run back, and then he misses, and then he blows himself up. But yeah, the Demo Man melee unlocks is a chapter all for itself, man. Jesus Christ, you have a lot of swords.
Demo Knight, yeah.
Not a whole lot of useful stuff.
Yeah.
And then you have the Vaccinator.
Well, just the Vaccinator again, just like, I don't think the Vaccinator is like overpowered by itself. It just, again, if you have it on bullet damage, you can't take headshots. It's countering a counter. I don't like that. Well, like, it's that simple.
Yeah, well, the Vaccinator is pretty bad in its of itself. But if
right,
you go,
I mean, like,
but if you go like Darwin Danger Shield Sniper, like if you have a friend, and that sniper is basically like the old Sydney Sleeper set where you could die to headshots. Well, now you can't die to bullets, period. I think it's not as good as it should be, and I don't think it should display which defense it's doing, but that because it kind of contradicts the founding choices that Valve made in the beginning of the game, because they said like originally the spy was going to have a display over his head showing what he was disguised as, but they decided like having floating HUD elements is not good. But then they implemented this stuff that has floating HUD elements, and I don't know what the fuck is going on. I think there's different people working on it now or something. Imagine that. Well,
they got away from their original game design. Well,
yeah,
fortunately,
well,
I'm a beautiful man.
There? Yeah, well, basically, I think like the Vaccinator should be like a high tier weapon because it should reward high APM, which is like switching through the different resistances, and you kind of have to switch between the three. And there's like melee. It doesn't have any resistance towards melee, so maybe you could change it so you have like more melee vulnerability or something like that, and just increase the heal rate so it's the same as the other miniguns. Because like if you go in with bullet resistance, you can go, they don't have as much overheal, and I can just kill them with fire or something else.
Yeah.
So, but I also think like not displaying to the enemy except the spy what they are using. I think that would be a great help for that weapon, because right now it's just it's a bitch to deal with, but it's like, oh well, someone else has to deal with it, because like you never lose to a Vaccinator, I think.
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not, again, it's like, I'm not arguing about the overpowered nature of it. I guess I'm just pointing out elements in the game where it's like countered, like where I don't agree with the game design element, regardless of if it's poorly designed and no one uses it. Just, I think it's poorly designed in the first place because of X, you know? It's like, so one I would say it's like Fist of Steel Heavy. I think Fist of Steel Heavy, again, it's taking away the original counter to Heavy, which is a fully charged sniper shot, is a guaranteed kill on anything in the game. I think it's
basically the Razor. It's like the equivalent of a Razorback for the sniper, except that he turns into a rock.
Yeah,
but then again, like as a sniper, you just like, oh, I'll just kill something else, because he can't do anything while he's there. He's just like moving, and well, it takes reduced damage. But I think like I don't know.
But you can do it off and a lot actually, because I mean, like getting like for instance like the first point of Badwater. The strategy in a lot of metas of current Highlanders, you put the Fist of Steel Heavy on the cart for 10 seconds, you know, and then he can move it past that corner so snipers can't get a sightline on the cart anymore until it gets into the tunnel. You know, but it's like, again, I don't know, I guess I think a fundamental difference between kind of our ways of viewing this is I think you keep saying like, well, I'll just kill something else, you know, because like if he does that, then he's not that useful, and I'll just kill something else. But my argument is like that should never be like that should not be a statement that you have to make, because like I think that's so fundamentally wrong to like what the game should like originally played like. It's like, okay, well I can't kill this guy that I'm supposed to be able to counter. Well, because of whatever weapon he's using, well, I'll just go kill someone else. Well, you can always go kill someone else, but I should be able to kill this guy that I'm supposed to be countering. Like, and I'm not saying like, I don't know. I mean, like you have your point of view on that, you know. But I think that's
I'm a
where,
main sniper, and I deal with those kind of Fist of Steel's heavies a lot, but they're actually not a problem, because it's like if they're not shooting, then they're pretty much useless. So it's basically like an escape weapon. But that brings me to the other thing. That's like Heavy. You either run Fist of Steel or Gloves are running urgently, and the rest of the unlocks are bad. It's like there's when does a Heavy in competitive say that, man, I should use the Fist of Steel now because that would help my playstyle?
Yeah, no, I agree. So, well, and I think that's kind of something we, you know, as we talked about at the very start, which is that Valve kind of messed up melees, at least that there's there's like clearly direct upgrades to melee weapons.
The
that
Amputator?
Like, yeah, the Amputator.
Third degree for the Pyro?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, or like the Solemn Vow, like compared to the...
I think that actually got a nerf.
Did
actually, yeah, I think it did. Let me check.
But yeah, so I don't know, just kind of around that stuff. And I mean, I get where you're coming from with your different things.
No, I didn't get a buff. Never mind. Solemn Vow is the same. It's like everything the Bonesaw does, but more.
Right. It's like, all right, well, that sounds like a really like, and like I don't know, like again, like I don't think the Solemn Vow is broken, but I think it's bad game design to have like
they can just make
in the game of where there's not supposed to be straight upgrades.
You could just have the same stats as the Ubersaw, which is 20% slower swing rate, and it's fine. Yeah, I don't think that's that big of a deal. I think that maybe like 50%. Like, make you really suffer. Well, you get a lot of information from that, and if you have the use of the crossbow, you can really use that to your advantage. Like, oh, he only has 3 health. Boop, dead.
Right.
But yeah, also, I I think I talked about this. Well, I talked about this in my thread, and I was like, basically the fists need something, because either you nerf all the others or you buff the few that's very bad. So I thought, like, maybe if the heavy could do like a suplex or grab somebody and throw them, that would be pretty funny. Like if you press left and right at the same time, the heavy like grabs somebody and you can like throw them off, so it's like a compression blast. Maybe if you jump and you just hold it, you kind of just suplex them and you like crush their spine or something. That would be pretty funny. Like a wrestler.
Very easy to code into the game. Very easy.
Yeah, totally. No, but I thought like, well, at least for the bone saw and the fire axe, it could do like bleed damage. I think it could be something they could add to make it more viable.
Yeah, I think
like
that'd be like a fair way of just add some bleed damage to it. I don't think that's a bad idea. Yeah, I mean, just when they're doing all these different things to upgrade, you know, like the weapons, like make it so that things aren't purely a side grade. Like, stop making weapons overpowered. Like, fix other game that.
Yeah, that means like, if you don't want weapons to be overpowered, you need to do something with the sticky launcher, because that thing is ridiculous compared to everything else in the game. You can kill people that you can't see.
Yeah, well, and that's the thing is like they never really I mean, like they even, you know, this is like, you know, part of the kind of TF2 lore is that like originally the reason that the one key or your primary weapon for Demo Man is supposed to be the pipe. Like, you originally came with 6, not 4, in the original game, and they're much more powerful than what they were. They've actually been slightly nerfed, but they found out like that I think it was like too power. I forget if it was too powerful, and that's why they changed it, or that they realized that people use the sticky launcher as the main weapon. But that's why like the sticky launcher isn't actually the main weapon; it's a secondary weapon, even though it's like obviously the best weapon. Because I don't think they ever realized that people are going to use it in the way that they did, you know. And now it's just like this really, really powerful thing.
Yeah. So. Either do something with the sticky launcher or fucking do something with those goddamn shields and make it be like, man, if I use this, I'm gonna be a fucking really good. It's almost as good as a sticky launcher, but it's really hard.
Yeah.
So yeah, we've almost been going for an hour almost. So
yeah, I gotta get going here, but yeah, I don't.
Do you have any last closing words?
No. I mean, just kind of like, I'm trying to think of, what do I, no, I don't really have any other than, hi. I'm trying to think, like, I'm looking at my list, like, is there anything I really want to say? But no, I think I really hit all the notes I wanted to say, so.
Well, let's say, you could make, new items or new item for the engineer. What would you make?
Oh, I actually was talking about this the other day. I don't know if this is balanced at all, but I really like this idea, is that if you're able to pick up your dispenser, and then you're able to provide like maybe like level 1 style amount of heals, like when you carry it, and maybe you just take like more damage, so you can like be like a second way to like heal people in like a mobile fashion. But like you would have to put it down to like do anything else. So you couldn't quickly put down minis or stuff like that. So it kind of would be like an interesting. I think it just would be it'd be interesting to see how the engineer would change with that. I don't know if it would be balanced given the fact that you now have 2 healers on the field, in Highland in particular, or even in pubs. But I think it's kind of an interesting idea of like, what if you could like have a roaming guy that gives out heals, maybe ammo, but to like a much lesser extent. You know, maybe it gives out like a lot less ammo when picked up.
I've actually thought about this as well, but not in the way you have. But I thought like of mini dispensers, which is kind of like the same as mini sentries, only that they give less heal and less ammo, but they're really quick to build, and they cost like 100 metal or something. Because then you can have like mini dispensers and mini sentries. Because if you go mini dispenser, you have no fucking Wrangler.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to say the least.
Yeah, that would be interesting. I also want to see if you can switch teleporters for catapults, or like this spring from the like cartoons and stuff. So they go like straight up. So like if you, instead of having teleporters up to the roof of a gravel pit, you can just have a couple of springs that makes you jump up there or something like that. That would be funny. And you can like angle them so you can like, if the enemy walks on the spring, they can like get launched into the sentry shooting thing or whatever. But I think that's for another topic. Thank you so much for coming. Any last shout-outs you want to make to friends and stuff while I punch you in the face?
Shout out to, I made an announcement. I got a bunch of Sigafoo in chat, so I'm really glad to see some of my stream viewers come over here. And besides that, no, not really. Yeah.
All right. Thank you guys for watching, and hopefully Valve sees this too. Fix the unlocks.